Good morning. I'm Rachel. I'm an alcoholic. I totally did that wrong. Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. My name is Rachel Abassi, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. So we've got two things going on. I've got Autumn here hostessing the podcast with me. She wants my coffee. She loves her some coffee. And I got my hairs did. So I chopped it all off. I love it. It's so like fresh and new and I'm just loving it. So today I wanted to talk about it's going to be one of those episodes where we've got the dogs. She's wondering who I'm talking to. We've got the dogs, so they're going to be all over me. She's been eating my socks, at least trying to. And then Boris the bulldog is trying to go back to sleep, but Autumn the Weimaraner is not letting any of us do what we want to do today. Isn't that right, Autumn? Isn't that right, Autumn? She's a great hostess. If she could only talk, we could do a joint podcast episode. Okay. What are we going to talk about? I want to talk about uncomfortable silence. And this is really interesting. I had a little mini epiphany today. Um, and that is that when I was working in my career, I had a wonderful mentor who talked to me. He was helping me um, be a public speaker. Really was one of the many things that he was trying to help me with if I would listen. And one of the things that he talked to me about was uncomfortable silence. I was so freaking nervous to public speak, to talk in front of a group of people. And so much, I've talked to you about it recently, um, that my face would shake and my voice would shake. That was the biggest thing. My voice would shake. So it sounds like I'm getting ready to cry, but I'm not. And so I read about this, and it's really my voice box, my larynx, I think it is. Remember, I'm not a doctor. Uh, Autumn, don't chew the dresser. Okay. I told you it's going to be one of those episodes. A newly painted dresser. We're not going to be chewing that today, Autumn. Um, so I was nervous. Oh, your larynx tightens up, like the muscles in your throat tighten up, and that's what causes it to shake. That's what I heard. So, one strategy is before you're getting ready to do public speaking is that you open up your throat like a Scooby-Doo ghost and go, oh, and you're opening up your throat. Autumn didn't like that either. Um, I, how do you do that when you're getting ready to public speak? Like you're sitting there waiting for them to introduce you and you're going, oh. So that strategy didn't work for me. So there were lots of different things. I've talked about them before that I learned from the book Presence by Amy Cuddy, and also by different things that I read and by this gentleman that was mentoring me. And nothing seemed to work until I finally got this book called Talk Like Ted. And and for some reason, like the strategies in there, even though I had heard them a million times, helped me to just, I think my anxiety really just melted away. I mean, I still get health. I think it's healthy to have a certain level of anxiety, or else I'd be like swinging from the roof or something like that. But I think it's normal what I'm feeling now. Before it was abnormal and it was causing symptoms that were apparent to other people. Well, what this mentor told me, wow, that was a long story. Not so I can't say long story short because I made it a long story. He told me that when you're silent in the silence, Like, so you're in a conversation with people or you're public speaking and you get quiet and you stay silent for an extra beat or two, what it actually portrays to the audience is that you are thoughtful about um, your next phrase, whatever you're about to say, that it appears as though you're putting extra thought into it. And I thought, well, that sounds right. And it was like a freight train, like all these memories of people public speaking and that almost authoritative silence that they take um, is like it's in control, like they're in control. And actually what it makes me think about right now is the author of the book that we just read for October, Oliver Sacks, and listening to his speech and how it appeared as though it was purposeful pausing, and yet he was really uncomfortable. So I was thinking about all of that stuff this morning. And then I compared it to, because I was in an AA meeting, compared it to the silence that I first had to sit in when I was first in sobriety. I think that as uncomfortable as I was um, in these situations at work, I think I was just as uncomfortable to be in silence with myself. I mean, that's the epiphany. I'm like, wait a minute. When I first got sober, I had to sit in my own skin and I had to listen to my thoughts because what I had been doing before I stopped drinking was I was silencing the thoughts. I was using the drink to make myself shut up, to make my mind shut up. And then I would just run my mouth. And what I had to do is the opposite. I had to shut my mouth and let my mind think, you know, and get comfortable with it and face it and look at whatever might be going on in there. And it was only until I started doing that, allowed myself to listen to the silence, listen to what's going on between my ears in the silence. Kind of like Autumn. No, sorry. She is attempting to chew on my newly upcycled dresser. No, it is beautiful. Do not chew that. Come over here. Come here. Come here. She's not listening. Okay. So, you know that I interrupt myself and then I can't remember what I was saying. But I think it was kind of a brilliant comparison that I came to this morning, if you don't mind me saying myself. So I heard somebody talk about clearing your mind so that God can enter, like clearing your thoughts so that you can listen to, for those of you who don't have God as your higher power. So clearing your thoughts so you can actually listen to what's going on in the present moment. And somebody else then said, from another perspective, it's not about clearing your thoughts, it's about noticing your thoughts. And I thought, and I thought, Um, okay. I mean, that's a lot. Those are kind of different perspectives on it. And so I'm going to say that again so I can think about it. Either I'm trying to quiet down the thoughts so that I can be present in the moment, or I am not trying to quiet down the thoughts. I'm just trying to notice them. So, what I think about the latter of the two is that I'm always noticing my thoughts. because I'm noticing so much that it causes me extreme anxiety. And for those of you who are new, because we've had a lot of newcomers coming lately, um, I have suffered with extreme anxiety in my life. So that to the point where I couldn't leave my house, like I couldn't go to the grocery store. I was having panic attacks like all day long. Panic attacks to the point where I was just fearful. It feels like you're dying, when you're having a panic attack. I was just talking to my daughter about that last night. Um, so that extreme anxiety that I was feeling, I was using alcohol to make it go away. I was self-medicating with that. And so I was terrified when I stopped drinking to allow that to, overcome me because that's what it was doing. It was so loud. My anxiety and my thoughts were so loud that one day I was alone in the house. The kids were at school. I had stopped taking my anxiety medication, which is the worst thing you can possibly do. I just talked about that the other day with like four people I know that did the same thing. Um, and I just flipped my seat around because I was working in my office and I swirled my seat around and I just yelled out loud, I can't take it anymore because it was just I felt like I was going crazy. That's what it felt like. I was going crazy. So I went back on the medication, but I also kept drinking. The drinking wasn't working either. Like it was so when I got sober, I was afraid to be alone with that stuff. I was afraid of that feeling happening again. And that anxiety, being afraid of my own anxiety, created more anxiety. But guess what? When I stopped drinking, my medication started working. When I started going to an addiction therapist, all of that started being a healthy way to deal with those thoughts. And talking about those thoughts, allowing them to happen, and then the dogs are playing. Hopefully, we don't have another incident like we did a couple weeks ago where Autumn jumped over my shoulder. We'll see what happens. They're playing. So getting quiet, taking the drink away to allow those thoughts to come out so that I can actually tell my addiction therapist, tell my doctors about what actually is happening in there. Um, I started to address it. Like the hardest part, I feel like, about getting sober was that time in the beginning where you're sober, but you haven't had the opportunity. Oh my gosh. You haven't had the opportunity to work the program. I'm almost inclined for you to see the chaos that is happening right now. Autumn's trying to twirl 25 times until she finds a seat. She's laying down now. So that time between getting stopping drinking, but yet haven't having not had the time to practice the program yet, that is the scary part right there. I don't ever want to go back to that scary part right there. Um, as time goes on, that being silent with my thoughts wasn't so scary feeling. Um, because I started talking about them. And before I started talking about them, they were trapped inside of me, and I wasn't allowed to put alcohol in there and quiet them down. So I really was there with them. But there's so many tools in the program where we learn how to call somebody when I've got those thoughts. do a hobby, find something that you enjoy. And that's what really helped me too. Um, to not well, I guess it was a bit to distract myself. So I started doing my flea market flip stuff and just being out in the garage and like sanding a dresser or painting a dresser or something like that. And I still do it because that's the dresser that my dog wanted to chew on. Um, it it's it's a bit of a distraction in the beginning that helps me get through those moments where I might be craving alcohol, but it also is a monotonous task that allows me to, it was meditative for me to be able to just be present. And like I guess the second person shared is notice my thoughts. And yet my hands were busy, so I couldn't do anything about my thoughts. I had to sit with them. I had to be in that uncomfortable silence with myself. And what I learned is sometimes when almost like when I'm with other people and I want to inject my opinion or my voice because I'm uncomfortable in the silence and learning how to pause an extra beat and not say anything, I started learning how to do that with myself. So when I'm sitting here, drinking my cup of coffee and I'm thinking, and maybe I start thinking of something that hurts, I shared the other day about um, a a family friend having lost a family friend. And what I have found over the past few days, because you guys know me by now, is that I am doing that really unhealthy thinking. I'm thinking about what I put myself in that person's shoes, what it might have felt like in those last moments and things like that. And when I do that, I will immediately get up and go do something and be like, oh, I can't think about it. And I'll go do something. What I learned from my psychiatrist is don't get up and do something. Allow that time to happen because that time is important. That processing period is important. And instead of distracting myself and getting up and going and doing something that makes me not think about it, sit there and think, okay, not, I'm noticing. Yeah. So it is kind of like what the guy is saying. I'm noticing that I'm thinking these unhealthy thoughts. I'm noticing that what I'm thinking right now is not going to solve the problem. What I'm thinking is not going to resolve the fact that this young woman is gone. I can't think any thoughts that are going to fix this. Um, what I'm doing is not helping my family members that are grieving. All I'm doing is creating this space. I'm playing a movie. I'm directing a movie in my head that has a very sad ending. Why am I doing this? Because I'm uncomfortable with death. That's why. Because it's scary to me. That's why. Um, so I'm trying to wrap my head around this idea that I've never really understood and that is scary to me. So what can I do that's a healthy way to grieve? I know I can write a letter to my family members that are grieving. I can paint something that that is meaningful for what's going on in my head. So it's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to do that stuff. I'm going to invest that energy into something, but I'm going to do it in a healthy way. I'm not going to try to over empathize with folks that are very close to the person that we've lost. Um, I'm not going to try to relive, pretend to relive such a event, but what I can do is try to give. I can sit in my silence and determine what is a healthy way to process this. So that's kind of what I mean about unhealthy, getting unhealthy, getting comfortable in my own silence. So, it has taken a lot of practice. It took a lot of practice at work to learn how to be quiet. Um, I noticed that in that time that I was wanting to say something, but I was like, nope, 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 you have to wait a beat. You have to wait a beat. I noticed that what I wanted to say, before I made myself pause was not of value. I was simply trying to say something to fill the silence, to fill the space because it was uncomfortable for me. So by taking that extra time with ourselves, we can notice the why, you know, and instead of distracting from the silence by filling it, um, we can take an extra beat and be more self-aware, learn more about what's going on inside of me and how can I help myself. So it takes practice, it takes patience, it takes a lot of icky uncomfortableness in order to get there, but it's possible. I mean, I am living proof that it is possible to go from this space where I'm so uncomfortable in my own skin, uncomfortable even pulling the covers off of me and getting out into the world. Going from that to sitting here recording a podcast, and being able to sometimes, you all know, you lifetime listeners know, sometimes it's just quiet for a minute because I'm thinking about what I want to say. And I think that that happens a little more now than it did in the beginning of this whole podcast experience. We're in season 2. We're going to be in season 3 in a couple months. That's crazy to think about. And to be able to, in the beginning, I was just, sometimes I couldn't move my mouth fast enough to tell you guys what was going through my mind. I still do it. But I try to be a little more thoughtful about what comes out of my mouth. Sometimes it just falls out. And you guys are okay with that because you keep hitting play for some reason. So I'm really grateful that you do because you help me so much. I tell you that all the time. You help me so much in my recovery. Today I am supposed to go to a acupuncture appointment for the first time. I've never done this. However, I think there is I'm getting a text and a call from my friend who I'm going with who is concerned about me going because I didn't tell my doctor. So, so I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I won't go to a acupuncture appointment today. We'll see. I mean, you'll know about it. Um, we'll know the results of that by noon today. You won't know until tomorrow, but we'll see if I end up going. And then I'm going to lunch with some family, some extended family. So that's it. That's my day. I'm gonna swing my short hair around all day long. And that's it. That's all I've got. Thanks so much for showing up for me today, showing up for yourselves. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.